So like I said, what we're going to start with today is the theorem of Pythagoras. Now, there's a little video I'm going to show you in a second, but let's actually just chat about what Pythagoras is. So there's this diagram here. You don't have to really stress about it. What it's showing you is essentially what the Pythagorean theorem is. So Pythagoras was a mathematician way back when, and he sort of came up with a way for us to work out the length of any side in a right angle triangle. Now, in a right angle triangle, there's some important things that we need to understand and know before we get going. So here's my right angle triangle ABC. I'm just going to go over it because I thought I did, but obviously I did not. And we could see that it's a right angle triangle because there's that little square in the bottom left corner of it, indicating that that is a 90-degree angle. Now, within a right angle triangle, the concept of the longest side in the triangle is very important. This is important now in this section. It's also going to be important later on in like grade 10 when you do new sections. But the longest side in this triangle is always going to be the side opposite the 90-degree angle. So I'm going to ask, does anyone know what this side is called? There's a special name we give to the side. Tandor, can you tell me what is the side called?
The hypotenuse.
Good, well done. So this side, and that's going to look terrible, so let's just go like this. This side that is opposite the right angle is called the hypotenuse. Let's hope I can spell. There we go. All right. And Pythagoras' theorem essentially revolves around this side and its relationship with the other two sides. Okay, so the theorem of Pythagoras, and you said the theorem of hypotenuse. The theorem of Pythagoras states that the hypotenuse squared, which I'm going to represent with an h, is equal to the sum of the square of the two other sides. So my two other sides here are AB. So AB squared plus, and my second side, BC squared. Now, if we wanted to, we could call this hypotenuse the actual labels that it is, which is AC. So AC squared is equal to the sum of the square of the two other sides. And this is my theorem of Pythagoras. Right, so these little blocks are going to become important in a second. What I want to do is I want to show you this video. Let's hope it works. We'll see what happens. Probably going to have to share my screen differently, but let's see. Anything's possible. Here. Can we all see the video?
Yes, the video is clear.
And of course it's okay. Panic. Okay, so basically what that video is showing us is the fact that those two other sides, the side BC and the side AB, when we square them, we are able to get the square of the hypotenuse. So basically, if we look at these squares, and this is terrible, if we look at the length of BC, we've got 3 blocks. Now, if I square 3, I end up with 9 blocks. So that's why we've got 9 blocks drawn over here. My highlighting skills today are atrocious, but anyways, right. If we then look at the length BC, we've got a length of 4 blocks. And so if we square 4, we end up with 16 blocks. So those are all my 16 blocks down there. This is shocking, guys. I'm really sorry. I'm like a kindergartner who can't color in. Okay, anyways. If we then consider the total of those blocks, 9 blocks plus 16 blocks. That gives me a total of 25. Now have a look at this. The length of AC is 5 blocks. If I square 5, I end up with 25 blocks. I'm not even going to attempt to color that in. And so what we see is that by taking the square of BC plus the square of BC, I end up with the square of AC. And this is what Pythagoras' theorem states to me. Now, you don't have to stress about this picture. Like, the blocks are not important. It's just explaining to you why this theorem works. So what you need to take away from this is what the theorem is, which is the fact that the hypotenuse squared is equal to the sum of the square of the two other sides. So this bit that I'm highlighting here in yellow. So if you want to take a screenshot, you can do that. I'm just going to answer Fareed's question here before we move on. Fareed?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot that my hand was up.
Okay, no problem. Okay, guys, I'm just going to remind you, just because now I've thought about it. Please, if you do raise your hand and then you answer your question or ask your question, just remember to mute yourself when you lower your hand. Otherwise, we have all this background noise and we don't know where it's coming from. Okay, so that's Pythagoras. Now, that's all well and good, but we actually need to be able to use Pythagoras. So let's have a look at some examples of how we do that. So like I say, the whole point of, the whole point of Pythagoras, my screen's just doing its own thing. The whole point of Pythagoras is to be able to determine unknown lengths in a triangle. Now, the first thing that we want to do when working with the right angle triangles is we want to identify which side is my hypotenuse. Now, remember, your hypotenuse is always going to be the side opposite the right angle. So in this case, the side AC is my hypotenuse. Okay. Once I know which side is my hypotenuse, I can then go and use Pythagoras. So remember, Pythagoras says the hypotenuse squared, which in this case is AC squared, is then equal to the two other sides squared and added together. So the other side is AB squared plus the third side BC squared. Now, when we use Pythagoras, this is a like geometric theorem that we're using. So we do have to give the reason that we're using Pythag in brackets when we do our working out. Same as we would do in geometry, we give a reason for our statement, but then we can go and do all of our working out. Okay, so we don't know AC, that's what we're trying to find. So we're going to leave that in my equation with the squared, but I do know the length of AB. My length of AB is this side down here, and so is 36 centimeters. So I can substitute that in 36, and that is going to be squared. I also know the length of BC. BC is this 15 centimeters down at the bottom here. And again, I can substitute that in. So this is now plus 15 squared. Okay, now guys, again, you have a calculator. You can go and just type that into a calculator. There's no need for you to do each of those squares separately. You can just put the whole thing in a calculator. I'm going to do it separately just for those of you that want to see what the square of each of those is, but you can just put it straight into a calculator. Just again, we always give the reason Pythagoras or Pythag. We can shorten it because Pythagoras is quite long when we are doing the Pythagorean theorem. So for those of you that do want to know what the square of each of these things are, 36 squared is 1,296, plus we then have to say 15 squared, which is 225. So when we add those two things together, we get that AC squared is equal to 1,521. Now, what we need to remember is that what we are doing here is we are trying to find the length of AC. I don't want the length of AC squared. And so what this means is that I need to get rid of that square. Now, this goes back to our inverse operations and equations. If I want to get rid of something that's been squared, I need to do the opposite, which is then to square root. So the square root will cancel out the square, but remember what I do on the left, I need to do on the right, or what I do on one side of my equation, I need to do on the other side. And so I also then need to find the square root of 1,521. And if you go and type the square root of 1,521 on your calculator, we're then getting the length of AC to be equal to 39. Now remember, all of these measurements were in centimeters, so we do need to put centimeters in our answer because that was the unit of measurement that we're working with. And we have gotten the length of our hypotenuse. Now, a little check for yourself is, like I said, the hypotenuse is always the longest side. And so if you got an answer here that was shorter than one of your other two sides, you've gone wrong. Your hypotenuse should always be the longest side. In this case, it is the longest side because 36 and 15 are both shorter. So we're on the right track. All right, so if you'd like to take a screenshot, please do. If you have any questions, please let me know in the chat or raise your hand. And then we're going to have a look at another one. Okay, Lundeka, what is your question?
Ma'am, we already began with this topic, and at our school they said that if we are given the hypotenuse, do we need to subtract from the 2 when you already square rooted it? I mean, what's this?
So
yes, ma'am, they said
Yeah.
that we subtract if we are given the hypotenuse instead of adding.
Yes, we are going to do an example like that in a second, but yes, you do.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Sure. Lafika?
Hi, ma'am. I wanted to ask how we got the 1,296 plus 225.
So that is from squaring the two numbers. So if you go and type on your calculator 36 squared, that gives you 1,296. And if you type 15 squared, that gives you 225. So it's just from squaring the two sides.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Sure. Okay, I don't know what your name is. 355186.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi.
My name is Zoe, by the way.
Sorry?
Zoe.
Okay, thank you, Zoe.
So in my old school, we did like x is equals to the answer, like x is equals to 39 centimeters. Why do we put AC?
So in this case, we do AC because that was the side that I was looking for. So AC is the label of the side that I'm looking for.
Oh, okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Sure. Oratile?
Hi, ma'am.
Hi.
Ma'am, I just wanted to ask, ma'am, if we are given the hypotenuse, ma'am, how do we solve that?
I'm going to do that in a second. But yes, we will eventually subtract, but I am going to do a question like that now. Mpumelelo, what's your question?
Afternoon, ma'am.
Hi.
Actually, there's something I don't get here. Ma'am,
What's your question?
For the first part of the equation, it says AC squared is equal to AC squared plus BC squared. Ma'am, aren't we supposed to say? For example, ma'am, for example, I say. Oh, ma'am, it's fine. I thought I did it wrong.
Okay. Okay. Guys, can I just check that everyone who is not supposed to be speaking is on mute? For some reason, I'm getting some background noise. No, do you have a question?
Hello.
Yes.
I would like to ask this one because they recently showed us at school.
Okay.
So like what? So at AC they give us the hypotenuse, right?
Yeah.
And for AB they also give us the length for it. How are you gonna like find out for BC?
But they've given you BC. I told you that BC is 15.
No, like ma'am, like what if they don't show you BC?
And they give you the hypotenuse.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to do an example like that in a second. Okay, guys, for everyone asking, I'm going to get there. All right, this is the very first question that we're doing. So I am going to get there. Don't you stress. Take your screenshot and let's have a look. Okay, Nompumelelo, what's up?
I found this where I wanted to ask. Ma'am, for example, I say, with my equation, I say 30 squared is equal to 40 squared plus AB, ma'am. So,
where are you getting these numbers?
No, ma'am, I'm making an example.
Okay.
So, ma'am, why in our equation in class, why don't we have this one? I'm talking about, let's say 30 squared is equal to 40 squared plus AB. So here I was going to say the biggest number is 35. So I'm going to say 35 squared is equals to 15 squared plus AC.
I don't quite understand your question, Nompumelelo. What I'm saying with the longest side is that if you're working out the hypotenuse, it should be the longest side. So you can check your answer if you are working out the hypotenuse. If you aren't, then you don't need to stress about that.
Oh, thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, guys. Simbela?
Good evening, ma'am.
Hi.
Ma'am, I just wanted to ask how did you get 39 centimeter, ma'am, at AC?
That is from square rooting the 1,521 because we still need to square root because we just want AC. We don't want AC squared.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Sure. Okay, I am moving on. If we have a look at this question here, this is now someone had said, could we use X? Absolutely. I don't have labels for this triangle, so I'm just going to use X. We can see that X is our hypotenuse because it is opposite the right angle. And so we know that we are working with the hypotenuse here. Someone isn't on mute. Please make sure you're on mute. We know that the hypotenuse squared, X squared, is equal to the two other sides squared and added together. So 12 squared plus 9 squared. And I'm doing all of this because I'm using Pythagoras. Okay, so from this point, we've got our X squared. We can go and do this separately, but we don't have to. You can literally just type 12 squared plus 9 squared on your calculator. 12 squared plus 9 squared is then 225. Now again, guys, I don't want an answer for X squared. I want an answer for X. So I need to square root both sides so that I can get rid of the square. I don't want the square. I just want X. And as we can see on the chat, as everyone's saying, if you square root 225, you're going to get 15. Now, in this case, they didn't tell you if it was centimeters or millimeters or whatever. So you could leave it like this, but technically we would say units because it is some unit of measurement or some unit of length. But the answer here for X is 15. Again, this was the hypotenuse, so it makes sense that this was the longest side. Excuse me. Okay, so take your screenshots if you need. But essentially, we were still looking for the hypotenuse, so it's just a normal, straightforward, take the squares and add them together. Right. I would like you guys to try question C by yourselves. So I'm looking for X. So X is this side over here. We can see that that's the hypotenuse because it is opposite the right angle. So give this one a try. If and when you have an answer, you can put it in the chat or you can raise your hand. What I'll do is I'll leave question B up so that you can see how we did it. And let's see if we can find X. X is not degrees, guys. X is a length. We're not working with angles here. X is a length, okay?
So far, the answers that are coming on the charts, they don't have units, my pips. Do you know that you can get it wrong because you don't put units?
Yeah, guys, please put
I
units.
see everyone just putting no, it's not 13 units.
Centimeters.
There we go. Yes, my pip. So make sure of that, eh? Always.
Okay, Lee, just to answer your question on the chat, if you get a final answer, yes, you should put units unless we've given you the units. So if you know the units is in centimeters or millimeters, then you can put that. Otherwise, you should put units because there is some unit of measurement. We just haven't told you what it is. Okay, Bontle, would you like to tell us what your answer was? Okay, Essa, would you like to help us out here?
Hi, ma'am.
Hi.
I said x squared is equal to 12 squared plus 5 squared. And then I said x squared is equal to 169. And then I said the square root of x is equal to the square root of 169, which gave me 13 centimeters.
Excellent. Well done. Fantastic. Okay, guys, so that's exactly it. We know that x squared is a hypotenuse is equal then to the two other sides squared and added together. If we add 12 squared and 5 squared, we get 169. We don't want the square, so we need to get rid of that by square rooting. But what I do on one side, I have to do on the other side. And if I square root 169, I get that x is 13 centimeters. Excellent, guys. Well done. If your hand is up to answer, you can please lower it. If you have a question, you can obviously leave it up. So Oratile, Voyo, and Sipiwe, I'm assuming these are questions. If not, you can lower your hand. Guys, take your screenshots. Oratile, do you have a question?
Yes, ma'am. So ma'am, how do we solve it if maybe the length is in centimeters and how do we solve it when it's like that?
Sorry, I didn't hear the last bit. When the length is in centimeters and?
When the length is in centimeters and the base is in millimeters, ma'am.
Okay, so we would have to convert one of them to make them the same unit. So either you must make them both millimeters or you must make them both centimeters. Yeah? Ortile?
Ma'am, I was saying thank you.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't hear you there. Alrighty. Just I see on the chat, Kwanda, at this point in grade 8, you probably wouldn't get it wrong, but it is something that we do become very strict with later on. So rather just get into the habit now of putting in your reason. Okay, if you need B and C, I'll do that so that you can take a screenshot of both of them. Bonango Kawe, have you got a question for us?
Ma'am,
Well, I squared said 179, ma'am, and I still got the same answer, ma'am.
Say that again, sorry.
Ma'am, I square rooted 179, ma'am, and I got the same answer, ma'am.
You definitely shouldn't get the same answer. The square root of 179 is 13,37, so on, so on, so on. Just double check that for me.
Oh no, ma'am, I did do 169, ma'am.
Good, well done. Alrighty. Okay, guys, so let's try one more and then we're going to take a break. So again, look at where your x is. We can see our x is here. It's the hypotenuse because it's opposite the right angle. So have a go at this. What I'll do again is I'll leave C up so that you can see how we do it. But I want to get x there. Think about which sides you need to square. Don't forget to square root. And if and when you have an answer, you can either put it in the chat or you can raise your hand and then we can have a look and see. Remember your units for your answer. There are units here. Okay, Bontle, would you like to give us an answer here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, tell us.
My answer is 5 centimeters.
Perfect, right. So can you walk us through the steps? So what does your working out look like?
Open brackets, 4 close brackets squared, plus open bracket, close bracket squared. Then underneath this x squared 6. Then I equal and x squared equals 5. And I square root to the x squared so that I can x instead of x. And I square root of 25 and it gave centimeters.
Cool. You broke up a little bit there, but I'm hoping I got all of that. So x is equal to 5 centimeters. And it's basically the same thing as what we were doing. We were looking for the hypotenuse. And so we needed to take 4 squared plus 3 squared, and then we square rooted that answer to just get x. Remember, it is x. X is in centimeters, so it should be 5 centimeters as your answer. Right, anyone with a hand up? I'm assuming there's a question. If you don't have a question, please lower your hand before we take our brain break. Okay, Bonolo, do you have a question?
Yes, hi, ma'am.
Hi.
Ma'am, I'm asking is it possible if we get a triangle without a 90-degree angle?
Not for Pythagoras. To use Pythagoras, we have to use a 90. We have to have a 90-degree triangle.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Sure. Alrighty, guys. So here is our brain break for the day. So we're going to do it the same as we have been doing it. I'm not going to give you any clues. I want you guys to try it. The second someone has an answer, put it in the chat. Remember what you look at. Why do I feel like we've done this one before? Have we done this before?
It's my first time seeing this one, especially if it doesn't even have something on the right hand side. It's even weirder in a way.
I don't know. Everyone's saying yes, we have. I feel like I'm
this
in agreement.
one, guys. This sum.
Let me just double
Yeah,
check.
sure. We can replace it with the doom bets.
Oh my gosh! Look, we did exactly the same thing. Oh, I'm losing my
really?
mind.
Oh yeah,
Fine,
we
don't
did.
worry. I've got more. I've got more.
I couldn't even remember.
I know. Yeah, it's fine. No stress. Let's get rid of that. There we
Last
go.
week, that recent, and I couldn't even remember. You, my mind.
Okay, there we go. Brain break. Tanolo, why are the brackets added in the beginning of the equation? I'm assuming you mean when I substitute in the numbers. I always just use brackets when I substitute, just in case there's a negative that I need to be aware of. You don't have to put the brackets in, but I just use them. Guys, clearly I was having a moment here. The joke is indeed the same. The brain break is not. Laugh at the joke again. It's okay. Give this brain break a try. I'll get there. This is what happens when I try prep too far in advance. Okay, so we need an answer here. Like I say, the first person to do it, I also need to figure out what the answer is, but first person to do it, put it on the chat so that we can see who you are and you can explain it for us.
Let's go, my pebs.
I think I might have seen a correct answer here. I just want to double check. Dun, 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 dun.
I've seen it also. Mpo has the answer, guys. Well done, Mpo.
Nice. Right, and Paul, do you want to explain to us?
Yes, ma'am. So I
Loud.
say yes, because I say 3 plus 6, which is equals to 9.
Good. Oh gosh, okay. You keep going. I'm just clearly not in control.
And then I
here.
say, okay, and then I say 9 plus 7, which is equals to 16.
Wait, which one?
This one, remember, 9 plus 7, because I have already figured it out.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
So like that.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So this bottom one, what are we having to do?
We have to multiply first.
Okay, good. So what are we
Which
multiplying?
is 7 times 12.
And why is it 12, Paul?
Yeah, because remember, one fire cap thing is 6, and then 2 is actually 12.
Good, well done.
Mm-hmm. So what should we do? We have to multiply. So 7 times 12, which gives me 84.
Good.
And then I add 9 plus 84, which gives me 93.
Excellent. Well
Well
done.
done, girl. You nailed it.
Thank
Well
you very much,
done.
ma'am. Yeah.
Fantastic. So guys, that is basically what we're needing to do with these sorts of things. We're trying to figure out what the values are in order to make each row and each column true. So we would start, I mean, you could start either with the row down or with the column down or the row across. But essentially, we're trying to figure out what the value of the shoe, the fire hat, and the sunglasses are so that we could work out the final expressions value. Nice, well done. Okay, guys, let us have a look then at some of what you were asking earlier, which we were getting to in terms of what now happens when my side that I'm looking for isn't the hypotenuse. Okay, so just that we're all aware of what's going on here, if we look at this triangle, I can see that the side opposite the right angle is the side XZ. And in this case, I've actually been given the length, okay? So what I'm now being asked to find is actually a length that is not the hypotenuse. I've been asked to find the length of XY, okay? But if we think about the Pythagorean theorem, that isn't going to really trip us up too much. We just have to substitute incorrectly. So my Pythagoras theorem says that the hypotenuse squared, which in this case is 30, because we know the hypotenuse, is equal to the sum of the square of the two other sides. So 24 squared plus, now we don't know what XY is, but we know we have to use the square. Now, this is where a lot of you were saying we would use subtraction, because if we wanted to get this xy squared alone, we would need to take the 24 squared and subtract it on both sides. And so what we'd end up with is a 30 squared minus 24 squared in order to get just xy squared alone. And so this is where, again, a lot of you were saying, oh, when do we use subtraction? This is the case. When I do not know one of my other sides that isn't the hypotenuse. So when I'm given the hypotenuse, this is when I will use subtraction. Now, again, you can just type this into your calculator. So 30 squared minus 24 squared gives me an answer of 324 is equal to xy squared. I do the same thing here. I'm not really a fan of the squared, so I'm going to square root both sides in order to get just xy. And if we square root 324, I'm getting an answer of 18. So xy is equal to 18, and I've been told it's in centimeters, so 18 centimeters. So guys, again, when you are given the hypotenuse, you're going to have to subtract. When you're looking for the hypotenuse, you will add. Miguel, do you have a question? Okay, Phumelele, do you have a question for us?
Ma'am,
Yes.
I don't understand with those squares of 24. How to got it?
Sorry, say that again. How you got this? The what of 24?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
I didn't square root 24. I squared it.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm only square rooting the answer of 30 squared plus 24 squared.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, just to answer the question on the chat, Matthew, you do still have to say centimeters. If I give you a specific unit, you have to use the specific unit. You can't just say units. If we haven't given you, then you can put units. Londeka?
Hi, ma'am.
Hi.
I wanted to ask, is it necessary for you to put the xy squared when you square root it, or can you just like get straight to the point and square root 324 in the exam? Because I'm writing math tomorrow, paper one.
Yeah, you don't have to do it. I'm really just showing step by step. If you're happy to go from sort of your substitution to your answer, that's fine.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Ukanyo, do you have a question for us?
Yes, ma'am, I do have a question. Ma'am, how did you get 324?
So I got 324 by saying 30 squared minus 24 squared. That looks horrible. So when you type on your calculator 30 squared minus 24 squared, you get 324.
Oh, okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Sure. Abuchelo, I see your hand is up, but I can't seem to unmute you. So you seem to be having a bit of an audio difficulty. You're welcome to put your answer, your question in the chat, but I unfortunately can't unmute you on my side. Abel? Abel, do you have a question for us? There should be a little pop-up that allows you to unmute yourself.
Yes, Lebu. If not, Lebu, you can definitely put your question on the. Oh. Hi, Lebu.
Have you got a question for us, Abel?
Yeah. Yes,
Okay, what is your question?
Ma'am, can you please repeat the word, please? Because my phone was muted.
Sorry?
Can you please repeat the question?
We're going to do another question like this, but if you want to catch it, you can definitely watch the recording, but we're going to do another one like this now.
Thank you.
Okay. Simpiwe, do you have a question for us?
Simpiwe, you have to unmute on your side.
Okay, Bonganango, do you have a question for us?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So, ma'am, if 24 was a negative, ma'am, would have it been plus 24 if we take it to the other side of the equal sign?
If there was a negative before it, yes, but we can never get a negative length. So this would never be a length of negative 24 centimeters. That's not possible. But if it had been, I don't know, xy squared minus 24 squared, then yes, when you bring it over, it will be positive.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Sure. Okay, guys, let's have a look at another one. Actually, I'm going to put 2 up because let's try. So I want you to try B and C. Think about where your hypotenuse is. I'll help you a little bit. Our hypotenuse is opposite the right angle. So in both questions, I have been given the hypotenuse. So just bear that in mind. I want you to try B and C. You can put your answers in the chat. Just label them B and C. For those 2 questions, sure. Tanolo, your reason, you can write out Pythagoras, but that's quite a long thing. Generally, we accept Pythag as our reason. Like I said, this point, it's not super important in grade 8, but it is going to become more and more important. Like you will lose marks if you don't put Pythag later on. So rather just get into the habit now of doing it. But your reason can just be Pythag. You're essentially stating the theorem that you're using to solve. Right, and guys, do remember sometimes we get decimals. That's fine. It's not a problem. But if you do get decimals, round off to 2 decimal places. That's generally what we use, unless the question tells you otherwise. Oh, sorry. That was a weird noise. I'm going to give you 2 minutes, and then we're going to have a look at the answers before you guys do the poll.
We can do this, my babes. 2 minutes left, my people.
Make sure you're substituting into the correct place. So remember, if you have the hypotenuse, you should be subtracting. Okay, so Simpiwe, do you want to help us out with the first one? Okay. Claire, do you want to help us out with the first one?
Ma'am, I'm gonna try.
Okay, let's do it together.
I said 21 squared.
Yeah.
To 8 squared plus xy squared.
Perfect.
And
Why xy?
why xy?
Why are you writing xy? Why not just x squared? Because this is just x.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
It's okay. You're on the good track. You're on the right track. Let's keep going.
Yes. Then I said 21 squared minus 8 squared
Good.
equals x squared.
Perfect.
Which is 377 cubed equals to x squared.
Good.
Equals to x equals to 9,4.
19,
19,4,
40.
yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, guys, so remember, in order to get the x alone, I'm actually just going to move this one step down, we need to square root. So from this point, I needed to square root 377, and I needed to square root x squared, so that I was working with just x. And so we get for question B that x is equal to 19,42 units. Now, I just rounded off to 2 decimal places. You need to follow the instructions given to you in your test or your exam. Alrighty. Londeka, do you want to do question C for us?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am, I said x squared equals to 10 squared minus 8 squared.
Perfect.
I just broke it down and said the 10 squared is 100.
Okay.
Minus 64.
Okay.
Which gave me 36. And then I square rooted the 36, which is 6.
Perfect. And what should our units be here?
Centimeters.
Good. Well done.
Thank you, ma'am.
So x is equal to 6 centimeters. Perfect. Just that we all know where this first step came from, this is coming from saying my hypotenuse squared is equal to then 8 squared plus x squared.